Okay, sorry for the quick break. I noticed the Hokey Pokey project I had out there was not a NetBeans project, was just the source files from BlueJ. So I changed it so that now the project that's out there is a NetBeans project. So you should be able to download it and open it up. So I've done that. I've got Hokey Pokey song and Hokey Pokey here. And this just shows you how to use declare objects and call methods in objects, and all that is going to copy real well. So like the Hokey Pokey song, uh, the main routine creates a Hokey Pokey object and calls different methods in that object, passes parameters to some of them, and all that will copy fine over to C sharp. Write that in C sharp real quick here. So in C sharp, I'm going to save all to save this old project and open up a new solution. Let's continue with console applications. So I'm going to paste in the main routine here, and there's also another routine after it. One thing I didn't mention is that comments will work similarly in C Sharp and Java. The only thing we see differently is that in C Sharp, we have some special comments for Java docs, and those are going to be a little different for C Sharp. We're going to use a triple rather than the star, slash star star. We're going to use slash 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 for some comments, special comments in C Sharp. Okay, and now I need this Hokey Pokey class. Now I can go to project, add a new class, and add the Hokey Pokey class. But when you go over an error here, there's often a little idea of suggestions on what to do. And one of them is to create the Hokey Pokey class in a new file. And that's what I want to do. So I'm just going to do that real quick. And that'll create a Hokey Pokey blank class here and put it in my namespace and everything. I'm going to go grab the Hokey Pokey code. And again, some of this is going to change as far as the console, that right line, but the way we create objects and that sort of stuff, all that is going to stay the same. And now I see the only really problem again is this console.write line. So I have to correct those quickly in this program. Now one thing I might see because of the way I created this class is it doesn't find the console, because the way this class was created, there isn't a using up here. Remember, like here we have this using system, and that's where console is defined. And so here there isn't one. Now again, I can go to solutions here and say the top one is using system, so that'll put the using system in there already. So that should take care of all of our errors here. And then again, our program should run. Oops, I've got a string issue here. Oh, because I removed the using system out of here, and that's where string is also defined. Okay, that looks better. Control F5. So I had noticed I'd actually pasted it in a Java main, and then the C Sharp main is slightly different from that. So I corrected that error. Now we should be able to run, and it should print out the full Hokey Pokey song here. So it's interesting the way we declare objects with a new method, the way we link objects together here. Everything's the same. The way we call methods from one in object, that's the same stuff. So the way we declare objects and use them is very similar between the two objects. Last thing, we're going to look at an example with arrays. And I'm just going to open that up quickly with NetBeans and with things. So I'm going to open up this array demo stuff in both areas here. So I've opened this up in in Java first by downloading the zip file. The CIS 2087 array demo is the Java one. The array demo stuff is the C# one. So I've downloaded and opened that up in NetBeans. It has a main routine, and it goes through and creates both an array of an array and an array list demo. So let's look at the array demo first. It creates an array of strings, private string days, and an array of points. And there's a myPoint object. So there's another class here of myPoints, which is x and y, and then some function or methods to work with that, getters or setters and things like that. And then again, it has a routine to test the days. It creates a new array and adds the days of the week to it and prints it out. And there's a little method here for printing that array out. And then same with points. It creates a new, it initializes the array of points to 4, adds these 4 points, calls constructors to add points to the array, and then calls this print array method. Now there's 2 print array methods. That'll be important in a sec. One takes string and one takes myPoints. And then finally there's a polygon perimeter method here that runs. Now we can just take this code and move it and all this code over to C#, and we'll notice some differences here. So let's look at the same code in C#. So the main program's the same. This code is the same, the way we call our methods. And the array demos, the way we declare our arrays are the same here. The same way we declare arrays in both. We create them here. And the way we initialize them, this all should be the same in both of these areas. In fact, we could just take the code from here and paste it over here. A lot of it will be the same. Again, the console.write lines have to change, and also the for loops change slightly. Yeah, in these we use for int I equals 0, I less than points.length. We use the length of the array, and here length has to be capitalized. The length of the array has to be capitalized, so it has to be capital L. We'll see a fair number of places where C# will have a method or a thing, but it's slightly different, often just with a capital letter in it. So that length has to be capitalized in each one of these areas for it to work. But other than that, the two pieces of code are the same. Same with myPoint. If we look at myPoint, the way we declare this is all the same. All this code is the same as we go. And so we can take the code from here, this myPoint code. We could actually just take this code and copy it over and paste it, and it will largely work until we get down to any printouts and this square root function down here. So let's just do that real quick, show you that it does work. So we go through this, and the couple things that you will notice, Boolean is different. So Boolean becomes a bool here, and then some of the math functions, there's still a math library, but instead of math.square root, it's math.square root with a capital S. But other than that, the two methods are exactly the same. Now you might want to go through, I'm not going to go through too much more into the array list, but I'll just go through it real quickly. So and we'll tend to use array lists a lot in rather than arrays in these two languages. But the way the array list is declared is a little different here. In Java, we say a type of the array list here, and in C#, let's open that up. We just say array list here and no type. Now C# has both a list and an array list method. Array list lets us access the elements directly. So we can use with an array list, we can use the bracket notation to to add these elements. So if we have an array list, we could just use the square brackets like an array to access them. So in Java with an array list, we have to say the arraylist.get. And in C# array lists are more like arrays where I can use the square brackets to access the elements. But often we're not going to do that anyway because we're going to use for each loops. And so rather than doing something like this in where we say for each I equals 0, I less than 0.5 plus I, and then we do something to get each element in the array, we'll use for each. And in fact, we should be doing for each in Java too. Java has a very similar for each, so we should actually be doing that. But this is the example from Java 2, so I left it alone. But we'll be using this for each more with this. But again, we do run into some problems with where we can't access parts of this. Here in with an array list, we do run into problems because it's not typed, and so sometimes when we're trying to do things, we may run into some problems. So in fact, I had to change this my point example because to what is called a list. So a list is more similar to an array list in Java is a list in C#. And that's there we do specify the type of object we're working on, and we can work there. So here I've got some code. So you might want to review this code. So this should look very similar to the declaration of an array list over here. Except again we're saying list rather than array list, but we're still using templating to talk about the type of objects we have in our array, where we don't do that in our generic array list object there. But much of this other code should be very similar to how it works. Now with an array list, we have something called the count as the number of elements. Rather than the length or the size, we have the count. But again, we should be working more with these for each loops rather than these count loops. We should be doing just for each, my point P in points, and that does the same thing as up here. It just assigns P to each of the points in the list or the array list that we're working on. Okay. Well, that kind of wraps up this. We're going to go on and talk more about inheritance and then get that prepped for the assignment in the next